Watched the game and wondered why did they choose that guy as captain, or felt like leadership decisions were made out of politics than performance? Well, you're not alone, and the West Indies cricket team has been a masterclass in how leadership choices can make or break momentum. If you have ever watched the West Indies cricket team and felt frustrated or even confused by the leadership choices made at the top, you are not alone. Captaincy decisions have shaped the team's destiny, and not always for the better, though. In today's episode, we'll unpack the deeper lessons behind the board's choices of captains over the years. With over 20 years of experience as a cricket analyst, commentator, historian, and educator, Reza Abasali is one of the most respected voices in Caribbean sports media. He has written widely acclaimed cricket columns for the Sunday TNT Mirror, delivered expert analysis on top radio stations like 90.5 and I-95.5 FM, and hosted multiple national TV and radio series, including great moments in West Indies cricket. And there have been great moments at that. And also Sports Steel International. His credibility is built on decades of hands-on broadcasting and educational work with the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board. Reza, how are you doing, my brother? What's up with you today?
Hello, Robert. Great to be here in the Caribbean Sports Gallery, our first show that is going to be worldwide in the internet. And this is going to be an interesting topic today.
Well, with over 4 years of experience in sports broadcasting and live hosting, Robert Charles is my name. It's the trusted voice behind Caribbean Sports Gallery. Began his my media journalistic career as a host of a popular radio talk show, Spot on Sports, and something called Career Choices, where I built a loyal audience through insightful interviews and dynamic commentary. Reza, today is all about cricket, and we are looking at the state of the West Indies cricket captaincy. Yeah?
Yes,
Are you
and
there, Reza? Are you there? Are you there?
yes, I am here. I am
I'm
here.
excited. I'm excited, and I am looking forward to what we're about to deliver to our audience this morning.
Definitely so. And I think, Roston Chase is the new West Indies Test captain, according to my friend Nikhil Utamchandi from Barbados. He stated that he's the 38th Test captain to represent the West Indies.
Wow.
Test captain starting back from 1928 to now. And
that's a lot.
The Barbs have already started, Robert. I mean, what is Chase doing there? He hasn't had any successful. His last test was 2 years ago. His batting average is what, 26 per wicket, per runs. But I am willing to give this guy a chance, In fact, I'll tell you that about 2 weeks ago, I called in on a television program and I predicted Chase would have been the winner or the selected captain.
Well, Reza, if I remember clearly, we had in one of our discussions that name came up. So your prediction was right. You were on point. But let's delve into cricket leadership and board decision. So in your view, what makes a great West Indies captain? And do you think the board has consistently chosen captain based on qualities?
Well, that's an interesting question because we're talking about leadership qualities. And when we talk about successful West Indian captains like Frank Worrell, Viv Richards, and ultimately Mike Lloyd, they were successful West Indies captain based on certain types of leadership they brought in. And leadership is either born or created. And they were born and created for those kind of positions. But you know something, Robert? Even the previous captain of Craig Braffett, he had modest returns as a captain. And before that, Jason Holder, they were about 25% win-loss percentage. But what makes a good captain, even a great captain? And that is not an easy question because let me tell you from the onset, Robert, the captaincy of the West Indies team, and I'm talking about Test cricket, it's a huge challenge because we're talking about an archipelago of islands with different cultures, different
Different.
backgrounds,
Yeah.
Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, and why he chooses Bajan, why they choose this Guyanese, and we have bias against this and that. They have to now represent the entire West
The
Indies.
entire West
And the
Indies, Reza,
topic of insularity always comes up.
and you know it goes back to a lot of comments that I would have read years ago and conversations where you hear people talk about the dislike because he's a Trinidadian. They didn't pick him, and because you know they didn't pick the Jamaican because they don't like the Jamaican. And that is something that I think that every West Indies captain or player has to battle with. You know,
Yeah,
you are representing,
if I could,
you
if
know,
I
a
could give a
wide
classic
cross-section.
example of that, remember in 1998 when Lara took over the West Indies captaincy for the
Mhm.
first time
Yep,
in Courtney Walsh's hometown of country of Jamaica. The
Jamaica.
Jamaicans didn't like that. Now, I am not going to blame and aspersions about our countrymen or
Mhm.
regional partners, but that, I mean, when Courtney put his hand over Lara's shoulder, it was a
Mhm.
comfort zone for Brian Lara.
Yeah.
And as you will see, even Lara, and I want to make this point right now, captaincy, you may be a great player like Gary Sobers, you know, our Lara himself, and their returns as a captaincy in terms of win-loss ratio were just
Yes.
average. So we want to talk now about the qualities. And the first thing I want to mention as a major quality is having the respect of your players, Charles.
Yeah. And that is something that I think we need to look at closely because, as you rightly say, the best player may not be the best captain, but are we going to respect that player because he's just a good player, or are we going to respect him or her because they are captain? You know,
Yeah,
it's
no,
something that we need to look at.
well, you know, as we continue this conversation, I just want to give the listeners all over the world a background of
Hmm.
Roston Chase. Because who
Hmm.
is Roston Chase? Now, Nikhil mentioned yesterday on his podcast that Chase has not even captained Barbados. He has had one captaincy record in ODI and T20 with the West Indies. But apart from that, you know, he has not really had any
Yeah, his name, his
experience
name,
as
his
a
name is
captain.
nowhere as a captain. His name is nowhere as a captain.
Yes, but Chase now, I mean, he made his debut in 2016 against India. And I'm talking about test record. He has
Hmm.
played 49 tests, 2265 runs, an average of 26.39 with 500s. And his last test was March 2023 against South Africa.
In South
But
Africa.
but it's an interesting note about Chase, you know, back in 2017, according to my notes, he was named Cricketer of the Year,
Hmm.
uh, an Emerging Cricketer of the Year, Regional 4-Day Cricketer of the Year by the West Indies Players Association. So he has some sort of coming with
Yes,
that.
a little bit
Quick,
of something
not to
behind his
say
name
Chase
there.
is a fly-by-night, you know,
Yeah.
so-called player. He has had some kind of being backings in terms of what is behind his resume. And I think that's a
Mm-hmm.
good thing. I'm not here to go on pillory a man who's, I mean, he has one of the most envious jobs in world cricket. Let's give the man a chance.
We need to give him a chance. But you know, with that said, Reza, can you walk us through a specific instance that you may remember when you think that the board got it right or completely wrong with a captaincy appointment?
Well, I thought, you know, um, to pinpoint anything about right or wrong, I thought the the choices are so limited at the moment because the pool of players that
Hmm.
represent the West Indies are quite narrow, and captaincy is something that doesn't come overnight. A
No,
point
it
in
can.
place, well, let me see where they got it wrong or what they got it right. I can't, I mean, honestly pinpoint a
Hmm.
situation for you. The fact is that appointing a West Indies captain, and Chase is the 38, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
is no easy task. And I just want to mention on that note, Charles, because remember, we don't have a chairman of selectors again in
And
the West Indies
there's
setup,
no such thing anymore.
right? We don't have a, I mean, we don't have a chairman because right now it's basically Darren Sammy, who is the coach of all
The coach
formats,
for everybody.
and he would have recommended Chase as the captain out of the 6 applicants, along with the coach. Well, he's the coach. along with Miles Bascom, the director of cricket. So we have had this change in format. Is that good or is it that bad? All I want to say is that Sammy has a big job to do as captain in all formats. You talk about red ball cricket and the short format cricket, 50 over and T20.
And
So
his
yeah,
position is not just big because it's huge because he is part of selecting that captain. If that captain fails, um, what happens to the people who selected him? Will Sammy be will he face the firing line? Will he be removed as coach and selector? But that is something else that we may look at as we go further down, deeper. Because
yeah.
it is a position where you will not get it right all the time. You may not get it right the first time, but you are expected to get it right based on, as you say, our culture, based on how things happen in the sports world. They are both expected to get it right.
Yes, and we remember we spoke about this off the edge,
Mhm.
Robert. It's a captain, the success of a West Indies test captain is his success based on the type or quality of the team that he runs. Because if
And
I mention to you that
Reza,
I have a note here.
As you go into there, because I was going to ask you this specific question: how much of the team's performance do you think is affected by leadership off the field? Specifically at board level decisions. So I think you were going into it before I even asked the question. So expound on that a little more.
Well, board decisions, as I mentioned, it's how many. Well, first of all, we have 6 territorial boards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Barbados, Guyana, Jamaica, Leeward, Windward Islands, and so forth. And not all the time that boards are on the same level of thinking and process. That's a fact.
Mm-hmm.
Boards
Yeah,
have
because
clashed in terms of thinking and process throughout
we,
the West
we would,
Indies cricket history.
you would remember recently there was some issue with our board and who voted for the president of the Trinidad Cricket Board and things like that. I don't remember the specific, but remember recently there were some issues.
Oh, I mean, and right now we know what is happening with the Trinidad and Tobago Cricket Board. That is not the
Mm-hmm.
subject of our topic today, but the board is under investigation
On the
for
investigation.
called, misappropriate of funds. But that's another
Yeah,
topic.
yeah,
But
for a
the,
different
the
time.
CEO of the West Indies Cricket Board, Mr. Chris Derring, says that whatever happened, that the Cricket West Indies is not responsible for the running of boards. The board's
Mm-hmm.
CEO or president takes care of that. So
They
I
take
am
care of it.
asking the question, I mean, to myself, shouldn't the West Indies Cricket Board also have some sort of power or what we call, control over how territorial boards function in terms of their finance?
Finances. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, you know.
Because that is always, and if you look at history of sports, that issue of finance and control of finance always creates a problem. There's always some discrepancy. Somebody is always investigated. A finger is always pointed at somebody for using somebody else's money in an area where they should not have. And here we
Yeah.
have it popping up right here at home now in cricket.
Yes, it's a sad injunction of where we are in terms of our present state. And
Mm-hmm.
and look, for instance, there's another controversy regarding, I mean, if you recall in the last regional match, Guyana versus Trinidad down here at the Queen's Park Oval,
Mm-hmm.
there was this incident of what we call ball tampering by
Ball tampering.
Guyanese players. And one of the prospects, Devin Imlach, who was on the list of the prospects of West Indies cricket captain, came to the defense of his players. But that matter is now heading to the Guyana court, where the 2 players are asking for reprieve. Now,
Mm-hmm.
Guyana court or the Guyana Cricket Board is in support of their players,
With the
right?
players.
So, and that is far and separate from the West Indies Cricket Board. So you're correct. We have had these sort of, clashes and, disagreements,
Yeah.
and which is not good. And the simple fact is, Robert, is that Unlike other world cricketing bodies, we have 6 territorial boards that make up the West Indies
They
Cricket
make
Board.
up the West Indies Cricket
I
Board.
mean, we don't have any choice in that. And I came back to the point that about the West Indies captaincy represented island nations. I mean, not only in the Caribbean, we have great populations of Caribbean people living all over the world.
All over the world.
You know, so when the West Indies team toured England in 1963, 1966, the massive migrant population of West Indians crammed the grounds of English of English grounds to see the West Indies perform.
To see the West Indies players. Yeah.
That was a revolution for them. That was, I mean, an injection of pride and passion, Robert. But now, of course, when the West Indies test things so frequently.
And you know, you're talking pride and passion. That is something that at some point in time, I think we will delve into, because there's often the talk that there's no pride and passion in cricket anymore, but money. But we would not go into that right now, you know, because
yeah, well, you know, it's a fact where, because I could tell you, and I mean, about a year ago, I was at the Queen's Park Cricket Oval to witness the 100th Test match between West Indies and India. And Robert, there were about 100 people in the Oval to see the 100th Test match. And I mean, Test cricket is, I mean, that's another topic. It's dying in the Caribbean. And the man who was there, one of the greatest players of Indian cricket and world cricket, Sunil Gavaskar, was there. And to him to see 100 people at the Queen's Park Oval.
Yeah, that must have been you know, heartbreaking, really heartbreaking. But I wanna go to this question though, Reese. You know, with the frequency in which changes are made to the captaincy in the West Indies team. Do you think those frequent changes somehow reflect deeper issues within the West Indies cricket and administration?
Again, you know, the pool is narrow. As I mentioned, the captain before Chase was
the name is right there. I just can't call it. But
Braffett, and the man before Braffett was Holder. And you could go down the line, and what makes a captain now a good captain? We going back to the same question, the qualities of leadership. And in Caribbean society right now, you know, there's a lack of, I mean, that not only in cricket, but finance, business, politics, or whether, often like that. I could tell you that for instance, Lloyd, for example, Clive Lloyd, who captained the West Indies from 1974 to 1984. Lloyd came into Test cricket in 1966 and only was given the West Indies captaincy in 1974, almost 8 years later. So he had that period of adjustment, of understanding the West Indian society and psyche. So he had a period where he could have sat down and looked at things, assessed things. And Lloyd's early childhood was a function of him losing his father at a young age, and he had to take care of his young sisters at a young age. He survived a very bad accident on the cricket field in early 1970s. I think his spine was almost taken apart. So Lloyd had, I mean, what you call stringent, and other West Indian cricketers of the past era, their time and their experiences were rough. You know, they had to really take the horse by the cart and run with it. Their experiences, early life experiences set them apart from the rest of the breed to what you call engage in leadership. You follow what I'm saying?
But you know, with that said, from your experience or observation, how does a captain manage the balance between leading on and off the field and navigating that politics of it?
Well, again, you know, he has the same politics you talk about, because he has different islands to take care of, different culture, different backgrounds. Now, when in the past decades or so, you had players from each island bunking together. So because they
Mm-hmm.
had a common customs and they had a common understanding with each other. But that on and off the field experience is vital to success. Frank Worrell, for example, I always mention Frank Worrell.
Mm-hmm.
He was a man who studied human behavior at university abroad in England in the late 50s. Frank Worrell and others perhaps would sit down with these players off the cricket field, outline their expectations. Encourage them. And he had such a huge personality. He was so famous, of course. And
Mm-hmm.
there was a reading I mentioned once when Frank Worrell asked a fielder back in the 60s, John, go to the left. And John would say, how far to the left, skipper? So he had command of that respect. And but sadly enough, this rotation of captains captains are not lasting, 5 years?
Just
How
barely
many?
making
Three
five
years,
years,
4 years?
2 years,
You
4 years,
know,
barely making 5 years.
and Lloyd from 74 to 84. Richards took over in 84, 85 and went to 91. And Viv Richards never lost a test match,
I think
lost a test series
I
in the,
think he may be
in the
if
13 test series that he commanded between 1985 and 1991. He never lost a test series.
what and that is I think that should be the envy of most captains to try, sit down and listen. If I have been thrown in that position as captain, my first thing would be to find Viv, sit down and talk to Viv. Viv, listen, I do not want to fail. You never failed. Guide me through. How do I make it?
Very
Um,
good
and,
point.
and that for me, I think as a leader in because I have been placed in some leadership roles, not
Very
not in
good.
sports, not in sports, but as a leader, you need to know and understand every individual that you are leading. And maybe, just maybe, I don't know, maybe the captains now, they are not taking that time to sit down on a one-on-one with their charges and understand what their problems are on and off the field, because everyone expects when you go on the field, you need to forget and you must forget everything else that happened off the field. But how does one achieve that?
Well,
You
you
know?
make a very good point because I want to make, I think people would know this because between 1975 and 1995, that 20-year
Mhm,
period, the West Indies played about 35, 36 test series and only lost three. And
mhm.
therefore, Robert, there was a template of success under Lloyd, under Richards,
Because-
and have we picked their brains to find out, as you mentioned, what were contributed to this template of overwhelming success. And I come now to the fact is that at this moment, Robert, we don't have anything in our school curricula, primary, secondary, or anything like that about the history of West Indian cricket. And I think we need to start introducing West Indian cricket history at a basic level of our heroes who were successful on and off the cricket field. I think we need to start
And
doing that as
and
quickly as
Reza,
possible. And
because
before you talk, I want to just mention to you that
mhm,
I made this point about introduction of cricket and our books at the CARICOM Cricket Conference last year, the Hyatt. And the Prime Minister Barbados, Mia Motley, acknowledged me twice in that cricket forum about bringing up that point. But for some reason, it's stumped to use a literal clause in
mhm,
cricket. And we must start to know, well, not only our cricket heroes, but all sporting heroes. I am not saying, Robert, just give me a few seconds. I'm not saying that
mhm,
by reading and seeing a picture of Gary Sobers, the quintessential West Indian cricketer who is the living embodiment of West Indian cricket history, that you,
mhm.
the youngster, would become a Gary Sobers overnight. But there would be something there about Gary's on and off cricketing exploits that could spur and
Exactly,
inspire us.
exactly, exactly. Because if we don't nurture the young ones from that age, what are we expect or what are we going to get from them when we throw them into the leadership roles. And I fully support that point, Reese. It should start from there because I think in every business place, every government office that you go, you see the pictures of our leaders. Yeah.
Yes.
And why aren't we seeing the pictures of the people who led us in sports? The young ones growing up now, if you call the name, they may like cricket, but they're gonna ask you, who is Viv Richards? Who is Gary Sobers?
Yes.
Who is Brian Lara? I mean, and he's one of the almost popular cricketer or the most popular cricketer to come out of Trinidad and Tobago. But
Yes.
how many of the youngsters can tell you, hey, Brian Lara, yeah, boy, he from Santa Cruz. There's a
Yes.
ground name after him in Santa Cruz. How many of the young ones can tell you that? You
Yes.
know, but
Well,
and that is something that Reza, with your, I think with your influence, is something that you should look forward to piloting as we go
well,
forward. But I want us to
Robert,
talk a little bit.
I can tell you I've made approaches on this to very senior people in the
Well,
sporting and academic world. And
Reese, don't
nothing is
stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. But I want us to talk a little bit about distractions, alignment and personal leadership. How do you think internal distraction, whether from the boardroom politics, media pressure, how would that affect a player or captain's performance and his mindset?
distractions off the field for a cricketer, any cricketer, including a captain, is real in this world that we are in such a heavy, heavy saturation of social media that
Mm-hmm.
everything that we do or act is under inscrutable scrutiny, to use those oxymoron words. And
Mm-hmm.
it has to do now with the focus. How much can we be focused to have the job done? And as I said, we are an unforgiving world right now. The media is looking at everything, how we react to the media, how we speak to the media, how
Mm-hmm.
youngsters themselves, because not all youngsters, but many youngsters are on the phone 25 hours a day, Robert. So, our work ethic is I think diminishing in terms of work ethic, striving for excellence. I would
Mm-hmm.
my students, there's no shortcut to excellence.
Nope, they
It's
ain't.
not about only, Robert, working hard, but working smart. And
And exactly 100 and 101%. And
but I want to shift, if you might mention, because
Mhm.
this selection, I know we were talking about the selection of the captain, and the captaincy or the assessment was done behind a boardroom. Remember, we spoke about that. And psychometric tests were administered. And Brian Davis, the former West Indies opening batsman in 1965 against Australia, in a Newsday article on May 13th, he questioned this boardroom interview because cricketers or captaincy is not made in a boardroom, Robert.
It is no, I don't think any sporting captaincy
Yes,
um, is made or can be made in a boardroom, while psychometric testing
yes,
is wonderful.
yes.
You know, is it is it is it is it the right thing to do?
Well, yeah,
Is it the right thing to do?
because you don't do man management in a boardroom. You don't set a field in a boardroom. but it's a tough one. It's because he mentioned about how is it possible to assess in a closed room interview, as I mentioned,
Mhm.
and how do you win matches in a boardroom? But the questions may sound funny,
He's,
but he
he's
may have a point.
he may and he should, but that is something I think we're gonna come back again,
Yeah,
maybe in the next episode, because there
yeah,
are a lot of issues that we can delve into where this topic is concerned, because this is, make or break for the West Indies.
it
But
is.
you know, um, let us, I just want to, we just want to, because we are getting ready to,
To
time is
move,
running
yes,
out
well,
on us. So,
yes, yes.
your personal insight and broader application. If you were mentoring a young cricketer or entrepreneur right now, what advice would you that give to that young individual about staying focused when leadership above seems unstable?
Robert, I'm glad for that question. With humility, I'll tell you that I was attached to the National Cricket Center Academy in Hoover between 2011 and
Mm-hmm.
2018. I was a lecturer in West Indian cricket history to many youngsters, including Nicholas Puran, Joshua De
Mm-hmm.
Silva, Jaden Seals, and many others who would have passed through my lecturing who are now playing national cricket or premiership cricket. And my encouragement and motivation to them is every day is a new day. Remember your last bowling performance, how great it is. You start at zero the next
That's zero.
batting or bowling
Okay.
performance. So you have to stay focused. You have to work towards your goals. You have to practice, practice, practice. Learn from your peers. Understand the game. Look at the film and videos of our past cricketers. What can you learn from them? Because
Beautiful.
as we mentioned earlier, there are a lot of distractions.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's, I mean, out of 100 and let's say to 100,000 or 150,000 young cricketers in this country or the region, how many
Mm-hmm.
are going to be a Barbara and Lara? How many are going to be a Nicholas Puran? So I always told them that you must have a plan B,
A
Robert.
plan B.
You understand? In case this doesn't work out. Because there are a
Mm-hmm.
lot of cricketers right now who play national cricket who have gone through and have university degrees. So
Mm-hmm.
they don't make the national team. They have to now, of course, seek work or they're working in
Yeah.
whatever field that they pursue. But it's a tough balance, mixing and balancing your sports and your academics. No
But
question about it.
and Reza, with that said, great point, great point. But to wrap up, what's one personal practice or mindset shift you as an individual use to get back into your own groove after being thrown off by setbacks, in this case, or distractions, on or off the field?
You mean for me or the student?
You as an individual.
Well, as again,
At least that's one personal practice or
I
mindset shift that you as an individual would use.
pursue my goals with faith and trust in God. That's how I would describe me at the moment. But I I have other pursuits in under my bag or in my bag. Um, Caribbean Sports Gallery. Hopeful. I think we can have a great conversation. I mean, on worldwide sports and effect of sports on our psyche as human beings and people on this earth. But Robert, I wanted to show you something. If you just bear with me, I want to wish this individual as we come to an end all the best. I am not here to
Mhm.
pillory anybody who is given a chance for West Indian cricket or to
And
lead a
and we
West.
shouldn't. And we shouldn't.
And
Support 100%.
this is the man I want to show you. Have you seen him? Roston Chase and me.
Roston Chase
Yes, the new captain of the West Indies team.
of the West Indies team. Yeah.
And this was back, I think, in 2013 at the Queen's Park Oval when I met him.
Mm,
And
wonderful.
and I mean, I have all of these pictures of these West Indies stars or whatever. But this is not an unenviable job at all. It's a very enviable job.
It is.
And oh, by the way, Robert, he's off to a pretty good start, you know, because on June the 25th, he will be assuming the test captaincy of the West Indies on his home ground at
On his own ground.
Kensington Oval against the powerful Australian team.
Reese, we are going to be looking forward to that. We will definitely talk about it. And I was told one time that leadership is a lonely position. You're up there by yourself. You got to
Yes.
make it work. Find whatever you need to find to make it work. Reese, we are looking forward to the next episode.
Yes, I think, I mean, we got to discuss it. I think I mentioned to you, Roland Butcher. You know,
Ah,
he's on
listen,
a UK tour right now.
let's not sell out too much what we're gonna do next
Yes.
because I enjoyed this I enjoyed our discussion today, Reese.
I hope you did, and I thank you for the
Thank you
opportunity.
so much. Thank you so much for being part of Caribbean
Sports Gallery.
Caribbean Sports Gallery.
Yes.
So
All right, Robert, until next time, we'll catch up.
see
Thank
you
you so
soon.
much.
See you
Yes.
soon.